Dear friends, I'm Arun and I'm having my presentation on the topic of COVID-19 pandemic and how the world would change in near future. So in the previous lectures, you might have heard all that biological aspect of COVID-19, its medical biology and its health perspective. So in my presentation, I'm going to have the futuristic perspective, how this COVID-19 had changed the life. Now, let me have my tribute to our most revered Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam with his statement, every pain gives a lesson and every lesson changes a person. I would like to put this pain with the COVID-19 right now to the humanity. So over the humanity, COVID-19 is a severe pain and whole humanity is directly and indirectly having a lesson from this. And this lesson will persist for years and even decades, and probably, who knows, that will change the human sociology, psychology, human behavior, and many more facets. So, as we all know, that change is the law of nature. It is being, taught in early childhood. So, we are accepting a, continuous change in the environment in the year by year. But it seems now, after this pandemic started of COVID-19 around 1.5 years back, probably the change is more rapid. So I would like to, recap that SARS coronavirus 2, this pandemic started around 1.5 years back, Wuhan, China, say. And then because recently we have come across the second phase, and it is presumably given a hint that maybe third phase will also come up. But right now, the COVID-19 is in the deceleration rate and number of subjects in India are declining. If we talk about the worldwide scenario, that almost 177 million people have been contracted with the COVID-19 disease, and up to 3.8 million human deaths have occurred, unfortunately. So many people are saying that their phone directories are getting shorter, and in the primary network or secondary or tertiary, in our relatives and friends, a lot of people have died due to coronavirus in last several months. And still there is a great danger of third wave that is being presumed by some intellectuals that it may affect the children because they are yet more vulnerable because vaccination is not yet done with the children. So on the 11th of March 2020, this SARS-CoV-2 related upper respiratory tract disease as a pandemic. And before that, on 30th January, this outbreak of the disease was called as public health emergency of international concern. And later on, we are in the phases, time-bound, lot of lockdowns in the countries. Right now in the UK, there is lockdown going on. However, in India, lockdown is now getting, taken back, and human life is coming back on the business. But it has affected the economy, air travel is declined, and it has affected almost all aspects. So this coronavirus, if we see on a world map, you can see the severity of the disease and how many confirmed cases and deaths as per this heat map, as per the WHO records. So it's true that a great majority of people do believe that COVID-19 has put a great impact on our future. Not only future, but even in the present, we are without untouch of a lot of changes in our life. The world after COVID-19 is unlikely to return to the world that was previously. That is true, because it has affected in a multifactorial way. This COVID-19 is just not a disease, but it looks like it's more than a disease, which is just every facets of our life. So how this coronavirus is changing the world? So now in my coming slides, I will be having all futuristic aspect, how this is affecting in various fields. However, I would like to let you know that these, whatever I will be telling you or discussing you, are not only the factors which are being touched upon by the coronavirus. So now let's have first impact of this coronavirus on human social life. As we all know, during the course of human evolution, humans have very pronouncedly undergone this social interaction phenomena, and that's make humans so unique. So social interaction affects many areas of our lives, impacting on the workplace, our home life, and our day-to-day activities. So all 24 hours we enjoy our social interaction among other humans nearby or in the society or anywhere in the world. With a variety of stages of lockdown, there is no doubt that our opportunities for social interaction have reduced down. And that was one of the mantra, that there should be social distancing. However, it is actually physical distancing between two individuals, because socially we cannot be, get rid of our relationship with other humans. One of the biggest predictors of mental and physical health is the quality of social relationship. So nowadays, if somebody is having social stigma or social problems, then certainly that person undergoes mental or physical health changes. In many cases, many of the biggest predictors of mental and physical health is the quality of social relationship. No doubt that there will be many new social norms, but we can be sure that we are likely want to be social. And this is the being very widely taught science in the social neuroscience, that human need social, interaction. I mean, human should interact with the social. That's why a child first interacts with the family member, and once the child becomes elder, like 4 or 5 years, then the baby goes school, and then social interaction increases. But now what is happening? Now we are inside the homes during lockdown, or maybe in the upcoming lockdown. So this social neuroscience is, getting impact upon by the coronavirus. Now you can see such kind of pictures everywhere on the media. People are having like do gaz ki duri, or like at least 4 or 5 feet distance between two individuals. They are feeling shy to even shake hand, even to physically interact, and it is affecting. And like two humans have a now doubtful that somebody may get a disease from other person. So biologically, the humans do need use of 5 prime senses organ. So there are 5 primary senses in a human body, like nose, ear, eyes. They are meant for, interaction between human to human. But if we remain for a long time in a lockdown or on a digital platform, then certainly we are not using our sense organs, except probably eye and ear, which are more pronounced being on an online platform like a computer or TV, like that. So interact with other humans in the society. But COVID has affected it and has made many things over internet or digitally. But probably humans are not meant for this all, okay? That like 100% things cannot be performed over the internet or digitally. Much will remain same or more in the future. So whatever changes are occurring, we will be accustomed in the coming years and decades. The physical effects on those infected, and the mental trauma and the fear which almost everyone faces. So now there's a mental trauma and people are shy. Well, in India, many places like markets, and where the probably semi-literate, or I can say people who are irresponsible, they're not following the norms of, physical distancing and even masks. But certainly being a literate and being a responsible citizen of any country, we need to follow the guidelines. And the guidelines are as per the WHO, CDC guidelines, or within India, like from ICMR or other government agencies. The fear of not knowing how this pandemic is going to play out in terms of our economic, physical, and mental being. So now we are in a quandary that how the things will change and how it is affecting our economic, physical, and mental being. We do not know, and we are under having speculations all around. So there's a famous domino effect that says that global tourism, travel, hospitality companies close down economic activities, impacting small and medium enterprises globally, SMEs. And that right now that many people who are having small businesses, they are being affected badly. This affects the least well-paid and those who are self-employed or working in the gig economy. And it shows that probably the rich companies or big companies, they are flourishing, but small industry or small businesses are being greatly affected due to this persistent on and off lockdowns and social interaction being reduced in the society. So this coronavirus is affecting global tourism. People are very shy and they are unable to dare to go outside. Even air travels is down. Travel is decline, and only necessary traveling is done from one place to another place. Hospitality industry is getting affected, like hotels. Economic activities are slowing down, and that you can see with the GDP values is coming down for most of the countries in the world except few. And SME activities, everything is being reduced down. So towards minimalism, lifestyle. Now, I mean to say what we have learned in the last several months of lockdown, or which has given a habit to us. So, we are having a minimalistic life or minimalism. That is like it's a theme of existence for several households ever since lockdown or still thereafter. I mean, it's a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in the favor of focusing on what is more important, so you can find happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. Similarly, another definition goes like that: minimalism is a tool to rid yourself of life's excess in favor of focusing on what's more important. Like whatever just is important, you have that, and unnecessary extra things are get rid of. So, like you can see, we have developed in our homes right now, like growing our own vegetables and herbs at the roof, using kitchen waste so that we can get rid of the burden to buy outside vegetables or so, recycling our packaging material inside the home to make some boxes kind of thing, habit of waste segregation. Like in India, in abroad it is so pronounced already, but in India also we segregate liquid or solid, and some part is still recycled in the home over the vegetables growing or fruits or some indoor plants like that. Avoid going to hotels and restaurants, that is hospitality industry is greatly affected, so hardly we are going outside and we are saving money in that way some capacity. Also, we are avoiding unnecessary trips outside home. So in many ways we are saving money in some ways and having a habit towards the minimalistic life. And there are several books which gives how to have habit of minimalistic life. So now you can see this cartoon having the airlines grounded. Back to the future, airline sector poised for change post COVID-19. So it is being reported that airline industries are under now debt. They are under very great loss, because remote work and other flexible working arrangements are likely to remain in some form post-pandemic, and people will take fewer business trips. Now, many people are using online platforms to have their business meetings and meeting their friends, even doing office works online, and they are avoiding to go out of the country or inside the country by using airplanes. Even trains are reduced down in their number between cities. Staggering debt levels will lead to ticket price increase, because they are in the debt, because airplane industry is very lucrative and costly affair. So probably whenever they will start, ticket price will increase, and thus negatively it will reduce down the leisure travel decline. Air freight will see undersupply for some time, but in long term more prospective. Probably air freight will be overcome this situation. Now coming to see this air travel, what document you will be having. So in the first glance right now we just think of a passport, but probably it is not passport. Probably now few more things will be more important for you to check while going out of the country or having an aeroplane. So that could be your vaccination certificate. Like I'm fortunate to have my both of Covishield injections, so one has to have this vaccination card, one has to have this hand sanitizer, and more importantly the mask and other things. So COVID-19 will likely have permanent effects on the way we work. What the way we live, socialize, and move about the world will be different, and that will be different in tangible and intangible way by several means. So as you might be having knowledge about this 2001 9/11 attack at the Twin Tower in the Manhattan, New York. So after this incidents that led to make a landmark, and airport security were beefed up like anything. And since 2001 attack, now airport securities are getting more and more advanced. So after this COVID-19, I mean to say, there will be similarly now there will be check of even viruses, even biological agents with the subjects. Like you might have heard the story initially coming from the China, that few people who got contacted with the COVID-19, they had traveled to Europe, especially Italy from Wuhan. And this way from Wuhan, the epicenter of COVID-19, led to the spread of this disease in the Europe, and from Europe then it spread further to other countries. So now probably there will be another kind of checking at the airport, and this will be related to the virus, like somebody is having probably viral disease or biological agents, maybe like a toxic compound or bacteria. Screening may shall likely to become part of our life, just like security measures became ubiquitous after 9/11 attack. It is important to invest in the infrastructure necessary to detect future viral outbreaks. Recently, over the PubMed, there were a few papers, research articles mentioning about the use of sniffer dogs that can smell a COVID patient. So who knows that there will be use of more such animals as a detector that somebody who is entering at the airport to a country will be segregated or quarantined or maybe sent back to the other country from where someone is coming. And there will be inhaler based detectors also in the near future. Probably they will tell you the health perspective, because as a suicidal bomber, one can think of that various way a person infected with the virus or any biological agent or with a new disease can be sent to some other country. So there will be now change in the security pattern at the airport. Now remember these two photos of Taj Mahal. Fortunately, I'm also from Agra. Taj Mahal used to be full of tourists like this, and since last 1.5 years, on and off, Taj Mahal remain like this. It's totally empty, and probably this month again Taj Mahal is getting open, and who knows that next coming years or so that situation may come up. So this way the COVID-19 has affected the travel of tourists, and that has led to the decline of economy through the tourists of those cities, those monuments. In India, there are a lot of monuments, more than 3,600 protected monuments, UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and 50 sites under the museum under the Archaeological Survey of India. And all that industry is coming down in the loss. Okay, so there were a lot of articles showing that how coronavirus will affect the heritage tourism in India, and they have projected several crore loss because of this coronavirus in the tourism industry. Now, there will be acceleration in the disruptive technology by this COVID. So what are disruptive technologies? Disruptive technology is an innovation, new innovation or involvement of invention of new things that significantly alters the way that consumers, industries, or business operate. A disruptive technology sweeps away the systems or habit it replaces because it has attributes that are recognizably superior. So at one of time, you can think of that at some time, like mobile phones introduced in 1990s and television were like somewhere in 70s and 80s. These were disruptive technologies because that changed the way. Before that, even initiation of radio was one of this disruptive technology. So now in COVID period, the disruptive technologies are e-commerce. Like many people are demanding, parcels, their items, whatever their choice, through the e-commerce, their doorways. There are online news sites now. So previously there used to be news channels, and now there are news, even YouTube portal, and a lot of online based platform. There are ride sharing apps like pool car apps, wearable devices that people used to use in their hands for health monitoring, and a lot of instruments are GPS enabled right now, like driverless car also. So these all are disruptive technologies. So now this COVID has pushed this disruptive technologies more in the society. And during COVID period, the digital economy, rise of digital behavior such as remote working, doing like work from home, learning, like many students are getting their lectures in the digital way at the homes. Telemedicine, many doctors are giving medicines through the phone call or via video call. Delivery services have increased so much, and this way disruptive technologies are more incorporating in our life. Almost all businesses will become or has already become digital businesses nowadays, and will have to take a great deal of its commerce, interactions, and workforce online or robotic. In India, even like most industry or so, they are having robots, and there will be blend type of jobs in near future. So like out of 100% job, like every staff will be asked that to what extent or percentage of the job profile somebody can do from the home itself, and then there will be a roster of the time for the staff in an organization so that they can spend some hours at the home itself and some hours in the industries or office. So this digital transformation is quite rapid, and everyone's life will be now without untouched with the internet. Even the healthcare system is really changing towards this online platform, as I told you in the telemedicine just now. So now wearable technology in healthcare, it's one of the great disruptive technology nowadays. You might have seen many people wearing these mechanical wristwatches where the minute hand, hour hand, and people used to put the kind of chavi, but nowadays hardly we see. Even I don't use probably this kind of watch. Even I don't have now. So rapidly becoming businesses in the wearable devices are increasing up to 44 billion by 2022. It's global data forecast. Means such kind of wristwatches, fitness watches, even your smart clothes, it's rapidly increasing nowadays. Greatest potential in healthcare to address spiraling healthcare costs, aging populations, and the burden of chronic diseases is pushing this way. So like now, cost-wise, healthcare is costly affair. So why not many things can be done by itself by the gadgets in your pocket or hand. And aging population is increasing because now the life expectancy of humans is increased. Okay, chronic diseases are increasing in the society, like obesity also. So such kind of wearable technology is a great help. Even nowadays, the smart bra are in the market in abroad, where this even menses information, even arousal, and even the happiness and sadness, and somebody's onset of arousal can be monitored by the phone call, and that can be monitored by mother also. Like there's a lot of ethical issues in this, but how the technology is increasing day by day, it's so good. Wearable medical devices market nowadays, the players, especially going for the jogging, they have a wearable devices which are having inbuilt circuits, and that can monitor a lot of data like your steps, your heart rate, your SpO2 concentration, like oxygen percentage in your hemoglobin, your somnogram, like REM sleep and non-REM sleep, like a lot of data, whether you are getting deep sleep or not. So these wearable devices are non-invasive, means they don't use the blood, they don't use up any pricking of the tissue or taking a sample. They are real-time, self or non-self tracking. I mean, you can have a self-monitoring of your own health, or you can sync your wearable devices with your doctors or your family members, and somebody can monitor in the remote way, like how is your health is performing. They are having memory record, so years and years your data is there, like particular date, what was your sleep time, or how was your health, and even sugar concentration in your blood, and a lot of multi-purpose. Nowadays these smart wearable devices are coming up with rapid advancements year by year. So wearable sensors for COVID-19, a call to action to harness our digital infrastructure for remote patient monitoring and virtual assessments. This article appeared in the Frontiers in the Digital Health, and this shows the importance of wearable sensors in the body, probably related to your inhalation or exhalation pattern, or probably this exhale air, which will be sensed by these wearable sensors in the body, and that will give you the perspective of, like for example, COVID-19 disease onset in the human body or not. So this way research is also going on. Now coming to the pandemic habits that will persist for long. Yes, it is true. Like many habits which have been utilized by us in last 1.5 years, probably many of them will be with you forever, or you will be advancing over them. So several habits developed during the pandemic won't go away, and not just the habits of online meeting and work from home culture. Many will persist. So probably whatever life we are now getting changed rapidly would be with you forever. And there's a great danger that maybe in coming years or so, such kind of COVID pandemic or so may come up again and again. Remember, this heavy pandemic, like throughout the world, which has occurred after 100 years. So previously it was Spanish flu in 1918, and now this is 2020, so almost 100 years. So there was one article saying that probably would there be next pandemic after 100 years? And then there was a strict answer, no. Whatever has happened, so happened, but probably now geopolitics is so vigorous, so much, forceful, that it won't wait for next 100 years. Probably it will be within a decade or so. I hope so it won't be so, but we can't do anything. So in the University of Chicago news, there was important article recently, COVID 2025, facing the threat of future pandemic, with Emily London. She's a epidemiologist and virologist also. So she says by 2025, maybe next 4 years, who knows, that next COVID kind of pandemic may come up. The coronavirus pandemic has dramatically altered the way we think about public health and disease perspective. Now there's a great concern for all the governments, including our own country. Now governments are more serious about the public health and disease perspective. There is a shift in public health to better protect the population against future outbreak. Now it is the great onus over the government to install the check and balance of each citizen of person's health perspective as much as possible they can. So they have to increase the GDP expenditure over the hospitals, medical facility, and over the human resource related to the recruitment of doctors, nurses, etc. And we can have also an army of volunteers, just like in Israel, the volunteers even join the army in the emergency. So in India, there is a great need that even volunteers should be opted by the government by surveys, by Aadhaar card joining, and then they will be given these tasks of as a COVID warrior, or they can be called upon in such medical emergency at any time. So very unlike that next pandemic would come after 100 years again, as I just few minutes before I was telling you, the greedy polarization of geopolitics may create non-conventional war with bioweapons. This is a great danger, and few countries are still having bioweapons, no doubt, and probably they can go to any extent for their expansionist mindset. So there's a danger of bioweapons in the world. So bioweapons are nothing but these are biological entities, okay? So viruses are more pronounced. So as per World Health Organization, biological weapons are microorganisms like viruses, bacteria, fungi, or other toxins, like toxins isolated from these, or even some plants, but these are concentrated toxins that have potential to weaponize, to kill or incapacitate humans in multitude of number. So biological warfare is a serious threat, and the international rule book is quite clear for the bioweapons. So after the World War I and World War II, there was a need by the United Nations to make a convention that no country should have a biological warfare. I will tell more about this issue later on. Bacillus anthracis or anthrax. So you might have heard the story of anthrax bacteria. They were, these used to be sent to the person to be taken as a revenge by the parcels in the USA and other parts. And it's very dangerous. Its R0 value is quite high and very much lethal. So right now, any scientist who is working on bacillus anthracis, they are put in a very great scrutiny and having the BSL-3 or even biosafety level 4 level of labs, where only few designated scientists can work on such bacteria. Otherwise, there's a great danger. One can culture this bacteria and can leave it in water or air or so, and then many people can be, unfortunately killed in little amount. The international community banned the use of chemical and biological weapons. So not only biological weapons, chemical weapons have also been utilized during the World War. So there's a great danger And United Nations wanted that there should be treaty by all the countries, they should be signatory, and then they all should promise not to use chemical and biological war weapons. Technological developments in the biotechnology and alteration in the genome of microorganisms make this problem worse, with unknown danger day by day. Right now, there's a quite boom in the biotechnology and a lot of gene editing platforms, especially the recent one CRISPR-Cas9. Previously, it was knockout and knock-in and transgenic and Tolenway, several other platforms that were quite costly and lengthy. But now, several gene editing protocols and techniques have been discovered. So there's a quite danger. Who knows that such kind of viruses may be tinkered upon or may be changed with the genome to make it more lethal. And even there are some theories or school of thoughts going round in the media that this even coronavirus 2 virus was tinkered by biotechnology, and few bases or few amino acids would have been changed to make it more temperature tolerant. That's why it is able to flourish from 0 degree to like up to 45 degree in several countries over the globe. However, you should remember that bacteria, viruses, fungi, during the course of evolution, Earth evolution, they had come up earlier than the humans even, and they have survived till now. And so they have a own strategy to survive somehow these all changes over the earth. But probably they don't disturb the humans, probably they don't infect until unless we change them intentionally, or some changes occurs due to the change in the cycle of environment of each individuals and species over the earth. So this was one of the aspects being doubt upon by this biotechnological involvement, especially CRISPR-Cas9 based genome editing that would have led to the more lethality, more transmissibility, and more severity as a disease virus. So biological weapons, there is a big threat in the upcoming years: plague, smallpox, anthrax. Ricin is a compound which is being isolated from the seed of castor. Ricin is a protein, and it is being told that just few nanogram purified ricin is lethal and can kill dozens of people together. So even though ricin, but it should be in the pure form. So these all have a potential to become biological weapons. Q fever, tularemia, it's an animal disease, weapons of mass destruction, and glanders related to this bacteria Burkholderia. And this is the heat map showing the countries which have come under the umbrella of this Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Production, and Stockpiling of Bacteriological or Biological and Toxin Weapons, and on their destruction. So you can see only few countries in the Africa, they're non-signatory, and otherwise many countries are either signed and ratified or they have exceeded this convention. But however, many countries are doubtful here, especially even China is being told probably they are signatory to this treaty, but probably they are not following that treaty norms. So there was a report in the Hindu newspaper, G7 leader discussed Wuhan lab leak theory behind COVID-19. And before that also, since last almost a month, there's a great, lot of news are coming up about Wuhan lab leak theory. So this is the Wuhan Institute of Virology in the Wuhan city of China. And it is being said by many, science journalists, science magazines, many scientists even, they are telling that there was a lab leak theory and probably this coronavirus would have come out accidentally or not, we do not know, from this lab. And they say that probably this bat lab theory of coronavirus coming through the bats and this bat lab of Wuhan is probably not true. And there are several articles like that. The science around the lab leak theory has not changed, but here is why some scientists have. So many people are talking in the favor and many people are accepting this. And there are a lot of reports over international media, but no doubt this institute is under great concern of doubt right now. So would geopolitics be more turbulent in coming years? And my answer is yes. The happiness and the amicability between countries will be reduced down. And probably now after G7 summit of last week in the UK, and now some countries are coming up in favor to criticize some country related that they have not controlled this coronavirus as effectively as they were supposed to do it. Even World Health Organization would have been expected more proactive to control and give messages to all the countries to become ready, but it was not so. So most of world leaders do believe that in the post-COVID period, no question of going back to normal in relation. I mean, normal situation shall be there, it's very least likely. Polarization in the groups of countries be more pronounced. I mean, there will be more polarization in the group of countries in the world map. Need of proper communication through United Nations is expected right now. United Nations will be more in the picture to bring the peace and to keep the dialogues between countries in a continuous mode so that they have amicable relations. And it's associate bodies to keep countries in the harmony, but least probable. So there's imminent danger of future pandemics. Yes. Now there's an addition in our wardrobe. Probably initially it was like shirt, pant, tie, coat, but now this little friend is always should be there in your wardrobe, and it should be in your pocket. And now through the conscious recall, before you go out, you just come up the idea, where's my mask in the pocket? So and even hand sanitizer, and there are a lot of type of masks right now in the market, like N95 or simply simple type of mask. And not only wallet you're having and mobile phone and car keys in your pocket, but these few things are also in your pocket now at must. So mental health during and post-COVID period, it's more important now. So stress, we can say that the normal stress is part and parcel of everyone's life. Little bit stress is okay, but when this stress becomes so pronounced that unnecessarily and wrongly to think about that something bad will happen, anxiety comes up in the person. So anxiety, similarly depression is the mood lowering or mood off. Even the suicidal thoughts are increased during the pandemic period, and up to 3 to 4 times more suicidal thoughts they have been reported in the USA as per the Center for Disease Control, CDC. Domestic violence is increased, social isolation, closure of schools and universities, drop off from the jobs, lot of laying off the job, and many people are on their own now without the job, financial worries, etc. But the main reason of such mental worries in the public, and this is everywhere more or less. Few countries are badly affected, few countries are less affected. Threat of disease itself was one of the great danger among people. Like everyone is in the big impression that he or she might fall ill in the COVID in coming week or so, or they were watching the news on TV, having the pessimistic part and showing the gory pictures of cremation kind of thing. So this is again increasing the anxiety in the public. Rise in meditation and yoga practice is showing an increasing trend worldwide. This is a good news, and it is being reported in the scriptures and a lot of books that meditation and yoga was started from India itself, and there are a lot of proofs. And this is a kind gift to the world from India, meditation and yoga, and that affects increasing the happy hormones and reducing the stress hormones like cortisol. So prevalence rates for mental health outcomes among university students during France COVID-19 lockdown. This is a report from the France, where it was reported that suicidal thoughts increased by 11%, severe distress in 22% almost, high level of perceived stress in more than 24%, severe depression, and high level of anxiety. So mental stress is everywhere, and every individual is having some degree of stress, anxiety, depression, or such mental problem. So how to reduce the mental stress, how we can get rid of it to some extent without even going to a doctor. So there should be relaxation exercises, yoga and meditation, as I told you, aerobic exercises where you do physical exercises in the home itself. Prayer, it's good for the meditation or to think of your deity or your own god or goddess. Creative activities, thinking like, so what people say that when you are in an idle mode, just sitting or thinking, that time probably you feel more, negative thoughts. But once you do the actions, during the action or doing something physical activity, that time your thoughts goes away. So keep doing creative activities, positive thinking, then installation of hope, reading books, music, online learning courses. One can join and do a lot of online courses like on Coursera, edX, Udemy, even Swayamprabha in India. Swayam UGC is having a lot of, IITs, IIM, they are having online platform, and especially the youngsters can continue their skill formation and theoretical knowledge gaining through these online classes and indoor play as much as possible. So true, the mental stress will remain up in the post-COVID period. It is true. Mental stress is very much affected right now, and that will remain for even some months or years. As the coronavirus pandemic rapidly sweeps across the world, it is inducing a considerable degree of fear, worry, and concern in the population at large, and among certain groups in particular, such as older adults, care providers, and people with underlying health condition. Use of relaxation practice like cortisol is one of the stress hormone that come up in our nervous system increased, and that gives stress problems. So to reduce down, one can perform deep breathing, meditation and yoga, etc., as much as possible inside the home itself or even in the offices if possibly. Regular practice delivers the greatest benefits, so see if you can set aside even a little time every day, preferably in the morning time. If it is performed like half an hour, it's having miracle. It's like it's so much good for a good health perspective. COVID-19 and climate change. Now, COVID-19 has also put the effect on the climate change. You might have seen many countries were shown in the pictures where the air pollution or air quality index has improved during the lockdown and even months. There are a lot of pictures coming from Ganges in India, even other rivers, where the water quality increased for some time. When humans suffered, economy loomed, but nature flourished. This is correct. Nature has enjoyed. Nature has improved upon. Air pollution decreased, and so the water pollution as well as satellite imagery also confirmed reduction in the pollution level at several countries. But the use of single-use plastics increased, however. Probably this is because many people are getting online shopping, a lot of eatables, etc. in their home. And the good thing, tuberculosis patient decreased in last 1.5 years, maybe due to more awareness of masks, sanitization practice, and habit of washing hands again and again, and exposure of pollutants was also less. So some diseases related to that upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract have been decreased by the use of masks. So this picture was quite impressive, and I was so happy that even Mount Everest was visible from around 200 kilometers away from Kathmandu, and even these pictures were showing the peak of Mount Everest from far away. That was not possible. Even this picture shows this could be not true, but how this air pollution of yesteryears and during the lockdown was so clear in our national capital, Delhi. So now how this medical and healthcare sector is getting changed in the COVID period and will continue in the post-COVID. So COVID-19 has affected all lives across the globe, and no industry left that didn't witness its impact, including the healthcare. Adopting to the tele-counseling and consultation probably shall reduce the long queues. It's true, tele-counseling is now being practiced a lot. Clinics and hospitals will have to be strict about the consultation timing. They shall discourage to walk-in patient. Now, walk-in patient will be discouraged, just like in Europe or so. Infrastructure and technology implementation in the hospitals, use of robotics, artificial intelligence, internet-based methodologies could go up. Online visibility will be more important than the physical presence against the doctor. Now, probably a part of things can be performed by online visibility. Individuals would be more prioritize their own internal health and fitness. Every individual nowadays are owners. Use of Ayurveda is also going up, luckily. And increased awareness of health insurance. Health insurance will be now more pronounced even in our country. Even a medium income person will go for health insurance. And medical tourism will flourish for medical. So like in Asia, Southeast Asia, you can see many patients keep coming from Afghanistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, maybe Pakistan to India. Okay, and there will be a lot of technological advancements in the internal medical imaging system like CT, MRI, and it's related to the neurosciences. But many things will be now in a digital mode to the doctors to check the health. Now, how the changes in the education system will be imparted by the COVID-19. So due to increased uncertainty or non-linearity in the world, there is a rapid change in the behavior and socio-emotional intelligence, or I can say EQ, emotional quotient, as cognitive skills in the students. There is a change in this pattern. Working in the shifts or staggering school timings will be beneficial. Now you might have seen that probably the students will be called in a even an odd number of their roll number, or day wise they will be different, or maybe morning and evening shift. This can be enabled by allowing for batches at different time. Installation of internet based application with cameras in every classroom will allow students to study away from the college or classroom through the virtual platform. That will be also a possibility, because at least theory classes can be performed by this online way. However, practical classes do need probably the presence of teacher and the instructions and the guidelines being shown by manual way by the teacher. The new classroom design should allow for increased circulation of fresh air, and probably now government should impose, there should be guidelines that how the classroom should be designed, how the infrastructure, the window size, the aeration pattern, even light intensity, that all should be now defined by the government very properly. Otherwise, many schools in India still now are very less or poorly ventilated, and there will be more emphasis on the outdoor classes nowadays. So practice of sufficient sanitization and cleanliness will be increased among the students. Installation of primary healthcare system, like maybe imagine a university should have its own healthcare system, or at least a dedicated doctor in the campus itself to monitor the health of the students. Physical presence of theory classes be optional, like practical classes could be obligatory but not theory. Adoption of community service education system be motivated, like theoretical classes, community service, so that we can have an output in the community itself. Student-centered model or choice-based courses be more in the vogue of fashion. Choice-based courses, like students should choose its own courses, and that is being envisioned in the new education policy also. So probably in India there will be more choice-based courses for the students. Digitalization will also lead to more fluid education, alternate and combining face-to-face phases of non-presential phases, and synchronous method with the asynchronous method. So like there will be blend kind of education. Lifelong learning shall be getting a boost. However, lifelong education or learning is already permitted in the country, but now it will be more pronounced. And probably in near future, to reduce down the population of students in a room, no exam shall be conducted. Rather, we should have a peer review system. Like let's have a 50 students of a classroom. They make we should formalize one mechanism, and they can review each other, and then they can give markings to each other. There could be automated assessment methodologies also with the time. Okay, so need of monitoring and surveillance of animal health, it's very much important nowadays, like to control the zoonotic diseases. If it was true that this coronavirus has come up from pangolin or bats, even though recently there was a bird flu outbreak of bird flu, and that was just localized to some areas, and that has affected the poultry business. And we have come across a lot of stories where the even lions in the zoo got the COVID positive. And there were a lot of reports from bats and pangolin. They are the source of coronavirus, and probably from their coronavirus has come up in the human system right now, and then the adaptability has increased somehow with the natural mutations in the virus. So there is a great deal of surveillance of these animals, and one should keep checking the health of like birds, like animals. If there's any drastic change in the health purview of these animals or birds, immediately there should be veterinary medical science controlling the disease. So this way we can reduce down the chances of such zoonotic diseases coming towards the human subject. So this way it's more important to have a control on the zoonotic diseases. So this is the final slide where I would like to say that we should continue our COVID-19 appropriate behavior, not months or even coming years. At least this sanitization, mask, and many things will continue, because there's a great danger we should not come up with the disease once again. However, there's a rapid vaccination going on right now to make possible everyone gets vaccinated. So with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you.